Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to be here with you today. So, as a caveat, this was supposed to be last Thursday on Brigid. Is it Brigid? Bride? Whatever you want to call
Well,
her.
there's lots of different ways
There's
to say
lots of
it. I
ways you can say
usually
her name. That's right.
bring it
It was her
and
birthday that
bride.
day. Yeah.
Yep.
And we were here to talk about Imbolc and her birthday. And I was not able to because I didn't feel good. So um, we just decided, I decided, Diana said, it's not too late. It's always the right time, whatever spirit tells us.
hmm
So we're here to talk about this. And I also think that there are windows of opportunity to talk about things. And one of the things that I learned about this is that this particular pagan holiday celebrates the in-between time of winter. It's the middle part of winter. So there's nothing wrong with being a week late and $10 short.
Right. We still have 5 weeks, 6 weeks to go till Ostara.
Yep.
And I know the sun was shining today. I know it's been warm. I know I was into sweater and
Uh-huh.
shirt sleeves today. But
Yep.
next week we're supposed to get snow again. So it's a
Yeah.
long way to go yet.
Up and down, which is pretty
There's
typical, and also depending where you live, very typical.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's say hello to some of the people that are already here. We have JR and we have Willow here. It's nice to see you, Willow. And we have Randy Gardner. Are you still Randy? You still in Tucson? Be interested to know. Froxy's here, and we're going to talk a little, just very briefly about Saint Brigid, and um, then we're going to move into more of the Celtic goddess. We also have Nancy Vasquez and Laura and Synchrony. And we have Annie Bear. Hi, Annie Bear. Yeah.
Everybody. Hi.
Hey, everybody. Yeah. So thanks for being here with us today. I expect we'll get a few more people coming in. I love it when I talk to Diana about all of this. Oh, am I freezing up?
You're choppy.
I'm choppy. Oh gosh. Okay. My husband's still sick and in the bedroom in my studio, so I'm gonna let Diana talk so you won't be so choppy as I am. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is first call in Bride the way I speak to her with a poem that it's an incantation actually that she had channeled into me. And it's like this. Bride the smithy, teach me to forge. Together we bridge over the gorge. What is it floats under the boards? Scraps to release and bits move outwards. The used and the need and how to proceed rise on the babbles of our elemental creed. And with that, I lay down a deck of cards that is the path drawn out by Elaine. And for Brigid, I use the Celtic animals. And so I draw a card for her while I am saying the incantation, who stands on the bridge. And then everything from Elaine either goes over the bridge or is in the waters, depending on what the card is and what the lesson is to be learned. And so, who is Brigid, right? Who is Brigid? She is the daughter of Dagda. Who is Dagda? Dagda is the highest god that there was in the Celtic pantheon. He is the father of all things. She is a goddess. She is maiden mother crone. She is a triple goddess. She is the woman of bards, poetry, hence the ability to be able to make quatrains and couplets and so on and so forth. She is also the woman of the green and the leeches. Now, what were leeches used for? Medicine, to suck the poison out of you. And there are times they still use leeches. And I don't know if it's true anymore, but I was once told that when there are burn victims, little critters, little white, tiny little critters are used to eat away at this flesh that needs to be peeled. And then also the greens is herbology. She was the goddess, the midwife, the apothecary keeper, and of course, the healer. She was the woman of the forge. In her extra strength, she was the woman of the forge, the smithy, the clang of the hammer against the anvil. And then she is the wells, because when you are forging steel, you have to cool it and reheat it and cool it and reheat it. So she is also of the wells and of the water. And then she, of course, is of the flame. She is the exalted one. In fact, her name means exactly that, the exalted one. There are so many names to call her and so many different ways in which to call her in. So we can call her bride, which is what I usually refer to her as. But have you ever heard the term old biddy? When the Irish started to immigrate here, the women were called old biddies. But biddy is actually a pleasant term because that was bride's nickname as a child. And then there's Brigette, Bridine, Brood, Brigitte, Brigitania, Brigitte, if you're in France, Britta filters, water filters, right? Well, that's what Britta means, is water. She is the goddess of water. And Brigid, Brady, Bright, and in Wales, you will hear a lot of that Nordic Viking twist to the language, as Freya, and Frigette. So when on the day she was born, right? Where did she come from? She was born, oops, wrong page, sorry. She was, the mystery of her is where did she come from? Because the pagan and druids did not write things down. Because as we worry about AI today, they didn't write it down because they worried about how you could change the language if you put it into penmanship and applied it to a book.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing was ever written down. You had to memorize and sing the song of your heritage, of the gods. It was a continual incantation, a continual poem that grew with the history. And everything had to be memorized verbally and performed, whether it is spell or it is a job, a regular job to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she is of the world. The day she was born, why can't I just find that?
I just mentioned in the chat that it's interesting that both the word biddy and crone have negative connotations in our language, but both of them are just men, wise women. Really, they're older wise women. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Bride is born on the first day of February, with flames around her forehead, just as the sun came over the horizon. She would only drink the milk from red-eared cows, as was the same with her mother.
Okay.
All right. Anu is her mother. And let me pause here for a moment, because you've all heard me say this before. We have the Anunnaki
Mm-hmm.
of Mesopotamia. And Anu in Mesopotamia is a male god.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Anu in Ireland is a female god.
Oh.
The major energy of Dagda is Ki energy. He is the father of it all. It's key to everything. And so when you put together the Anunnaki of the sky of Mesopotamia and the Anu, in Hopi, it is An Uki, which is the ant people, the god of the underground, An. Now we go over here to the green lands of the Celtic spread, and it was quite a spread. It becomes Anu, a goddess instead of a god, and Ki, the male energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to remember that at that time, nothing was written down.
Right.
And she is the equal of Danu, the daughter of Dagda and Anu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so she is often referred to as Anu, which Danu. Sorry.
Danu. Yep.
Which brings us to, let me see if I can say this right out loud, the Tua Jedanan. Now, here we say it a lot, it's Tuatha Dananan. That's not correct. The correct Irish spelling is Tua Jedanan.
Oh.
And she is not only one of them, she is the queen of them. And this is the tribe of Danu, who became the She. And the She went underground. They were giants above ground. And when they lost a battle at the New Grange at the hill of Tara, when the Tuatha lost that battle, they went underground and became the She.
Okay.
And that's how they could survive. Which brings us to the elementals. She is the queen of all of this, right?
Okay. Yep.
She is born of the water. Because on that day, these acorns had fallen out of an oak tree that had sprung from the waters of the Danu.
Yep.
It is a long, tangled story. One acorn grew into the waters and made it a stronger river. And the other acorn became her. Now, one of the other things about the She is that we know we have so many different elves, pixies, gnomes, fairy. Oh my gosh, I can't think of all the names. Brownies, all of these. But I always come back to Dobie and Gollum, right? I mean, they look like they were brothers, right? And what is missing on both of them? Clothing. And what happens when you give Dobie clothing? He has to move on. He can't stay with you anymore, but you're friends. But he no longer has you, right? And so the same thing happens in the story of the shoemaker and the elves. They come at night and help the shoemaker fix all of his things. And one night the wife sees them and makes them clothing. They're naked.
Yep.
They finish everything they have to do, put the clothes on, all the shoes are done, and they leave and never come back again. So their particular name is Deban, Bean.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And their Bain Tig, and Tig is a Celtic word for housewife. The woman who keeps the hearth.
Right. Okay.
So it's Bainatag is how they complete. You say that phrase and they complete the chores for you when you're too tired and you go to bed. So remember that. Remember that. When we all are done and the dishes are still in the sink.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So she is the governess, according to what I've got here. She's the mistress, the natural mother, the governess of the elements, the progeny of worlds, the chief of the powers, the queen of all that are in the other world, the principal of them that dwell above, manifested
Mhm.
alone, and under one form of all the gods and goddesses. That is all-encompassing person.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
there's a tale about Saint Brigid and how she gets the king to give her the land of Kildare to build her abbey.
Uh-huh.
And he, of course, rejects her request at first. But then she says, well, I only need what my cloak will cover. Well, he looks at the size of her cloak and laughs.
Uh-huh.
So she leaves, and the next day comes back with a couple of her nuns, and they grab the corners of her cloak after he says, okay, lay down your cloak. They grab the corners and they stretch it out and they stretch it out, and it covers all of Kildare. Well, the ancient goddess created all of the lands that were part of the Celtic lands at those times in the beginning of Brigid. So the Catholic Church adopted that story and many others because they knew they wouldn't get any converts if they didn't accept her. Now, so we have to remember that they didn't write anything down. So everything that is known that was written came after the colonization of Christianity and the conquering of the Romans, right?
Right.
So it is the people of the Emerald Isle. What is written about the ancient Celts was written by foreigners, even when not ill meant, from the time 600 BC. What did I write? Till 400 AD. Okay, so through that stretch, whatever is written, it's like, the Celts were Ireland, the British Isle, Portugal, Spain, Northern Italy, France, Poland, which I would say at that time was called Pomerania and encompassed Russia. It was a huge, huge, huge land. That's where the Pomeranian dog comes.
Pomeranian dogs came from. Yeah, of course. Made sense.
Exactly. And they were, consider how Anu became a female goddess is because they're in the middle of Turkey. They're in the Mesopotamia belt. This was all Celtic territory. This was trade amongst each other. And, you go to France for tin and you come back here to get copper and you go over there to get that. And then you take it back to Ireland and you forge.
Right.
So it was a trade route for all of them as well. So these were different tribes and different cultures that, just like the melting pot that the world is, intermingled, intermarried, shared tales, shared stories. And this is how Brigid is part of the whole world. She is let me get back here to this one. In Mesopotamia, she gets 3 names. There we go with the triple goddess again, right?
Okay.
She is Nenisina, makes her the midwife. And then Nina Karak makes her the medicine woman. And then Nisaba makes her about the writing in the grain, which encompasses that same thing. Because with the grain, you can forge, right? You can use grain as fodder, like pellets in a stove these days.
Right.
So, and if Jazz is out there, or Jazz, if you see this, here is another connection to the Cormac that we were talking about the other day when I read on you. She is, Cormac's glossary also talks about Brigid and being the triple goddess. And that's very important in the Scottish end of the British Isles. So, let's see. I'm jumping around like a crazy woman, and so I apologize.
Because so Annie wonders, who is Brigid in North America?
Who is she in North America? Yeah. Well, the world was smaller then. They didn't.
True. Yeah.
But I would say this, in North America, she is of the underground, right? True. Because we have the An Uki of the Hopi.
Right. 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 Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I
I
would
mean,
see
all of
her
these
as
myths, actually, I've taught myth for many years. They're all tied together. They're just all
right.
done and they're done verbally. So some of the background of it seems a little different, but really they're all the same throughout the entire
Especially,
world.
I mean, consider the word for moon in Tibet is the word for sun someplace on this side of the world. I
Hmm.
cannot
Yep.
remember where. And the word for sun here is the word for moon in Tibet.
Right.
So just as
Yeah.
just as alternate facts, a meaning changes. We still dial the phone, but do we have a dial?
Right. Right.
No, we don't.
Right.
And so, for Imbolc, we do all these things, and it is still Imbolc. It is still just as right to do it today as it is on the 1st of February or the 4th of February, wherever the center
Right.
really falls.
Uh-huh.
And then the other thing is, and I'm so bummed out because I forgot to bring it. I have this little doll that was given to me by some friends from Brazil. And it was one of my students who had made this sock doll, and they gave it to me on Imbolc. And I looked at the mom, and my mouth dropped open because I did not. I know they were Catholic, but I did not expect them to be handing me this doll. And for this, that was the moment where, oh my gosh! And so I
Yeah.
had 3 more children from her that came to
Right.
school for me.
Wow. Okay.
So, anyways, I still have that doll till this day, and that was probably 2006. And
Wow.
it's adorable. I mean, it's just glued on paper eyes and not tied in the sock. But
Yeah.
that's my Brigid doll. And so
Sure.
on Imbolc, we go to corn. But when you realize that corn is part of the colonization of Christianity, because corn didn't grow in Europe, corn grew on this side of the world.
Hmm.
So, especially back then, it wasn't so much a throwaway society. You kept everything. Corn cobs make great tinder. So do the husks.
Yep.
And then St. Brigid's cross made out of rushes.
Yes.
Where did I just
Yes.
put it?
Wait till you see. Diana has one. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And on the day I was manifesting 6 of these out of the rushes that I had that did come from Ireland, a man came and plowed my driveway for absolutely nothing, told me his wife sent him down. She was worried about me. So, of course, that family got one. And he was
Good.
over the moon because evidently they're celebrating it too.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So
Wow.
that was great, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing how doing little things like this, which is, all right, it's weaving, but that's a lot like knot tying.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Because it's overlapping and keep a track on where you put what. It's
Right.
the warp and the wealth,
Uh-huh.
whatever it's called.
That's wonderful.
So anyway, where was I? No, I forgot. What's
That's
page?
okay, Diana. That's all right.
Uh,
I'm going to just read while you. Oh, go ahead.
well, one thing was goddesses were not gentle, right?
Okay.
They stood on their own because what's their word? What's their magic word that they have bastardized? Virgin. A
Mm-hmm.
virgin is a woman who needs not man, right? So they nurture and they destroy. On the onset, they're sexual, voracious, and certainly can be aggressive. They stand on their own. And examples for women are the fantasies of men and the nightmares of monks and the Romans who had their own agenda to conquer the world, whether it be for whatever his name was, who was the Roman deity king at
Right.
that time,
Right.
or the Catholic Church, because they were marching it there, right?
Do you think the Catholic Church embraced her as a saint because they wanted the power that
Yes.
she was?
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because, they just, no offense, Mother Mary, But
Right.
that's, you know, and they didn't
Yeah.
even want to include her.
Oh, really? I had no
Oh,
idea.
really?
Okay.
No.
Don't include any women because they don't make a difference. Okay.
Exactly. This is
All right.
men taking over the world. I mean, remember, you and I couldn't have a charge card till 19 what? 84, 85?
Yep, something like that. Yep. Hmm.
And the day I got one, should have heard my husband.
Oh my God, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself
You
better.
have no idea how to handle one of those. You shouldn't even have one. You don't deserve that. Right, right, right. I'm like,
Oh God.
I'm not your mother. Why are you acting like my father?
Right. Right. God, that's awful.
So the whole world was tribal, and we still are, right? I
We
mean,
still are.
we think of tribes, and we only think of here or Africa, but
Hmm.
the whole world was tribal.
It is. That can be
And
actually no offense to anybody at all.
right,
But that's when I see people with tattoos all over themselves. That's a tribal thing to me. And it's not being an individual as far as I'm concerned. It's adhering to tribal mentality. But I get a lot of pushback, especially from students or, if I say anything about it. And it's everybody's choice, not
right,
my choice. But
right.
it's so tribal. It's like, no, I'm an independent person. And I'm like, but you're following the tribe. So there
They
you go.
don't see that part.
They don't
They
see
only
that.
see,
Even our earrings, remember when we were
yeah,
kids?
sure,
That was following the tribe. Yeah.
red
Yep.
glasses.
That's right. That's right. That's
But in the individual choice, right? I mean,
right.
it's it's art I've drawn and I had it put on my body, or it
Yeah.
has the symbol has a meaning to me. I don't care about anybody else.
Right. Right.
So there's a lot of that goes on also, but we are still tribal, very tribal. And if you remember all when we did Merlin and all of the deep diving that was going on,
Yep.
Merlin was born in 400. Who do you think he was channeling when it came to his ability to be a bard?
Oh.
Brigid.
Yep. Yep.
Bride
That's right.
was just on his tail.
Hmm.
He learned the alchemy from her. He was born knowing that.
Yep.
His mother's name, oh my gosh, don't escape me now. Come back, come back. His mother's name was very similar to Anu.
Oh. Okay.
And he was born in 400, somewhere between 420 and 441, something like that.
Hmm.
So that birth in through there would have put him through all of these battles, especially this battle in what you call it, New Grange, the
Hmm.
Battle of New Grange in the Hill of Tara. And
Okay.
then that's big. That was big because that site is older than the pyramids.
Oh.
It's 25,000 years old. And where
Wow.
there are circles, concentric circles, there's one of them where they're conjoined and it looks like a figure eight.
Hmm.
There were what you call it, tombs, and not well, maybe some of them were tombs. Some of them were tombs, burial mounds. They
Uh-huh.
were like Stonehenge. Nobody
Hmm.
knows because there's 30 of them still standing, but they're not all there. And so it's hard to put it together, but it's the 100-acre wood.
Hmm. Hmm.
Come on, Winnie the Pooh. It's the 100-acre wood.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
So that also was the former site of the first kings.
Uh-huh.
And when you touched the stone, it had to sing. It would sing for the proper man who was to be king. Kingship was not inherited. And how did Arthur come to be? He had to pull
The sword out
the
of the stone.
sword out of the stone.
Yeah.
And one of the sons of Dagda, his name is Ether. It's E-I. It's hard to pronounce and harder yet to remember exactly how it was spelled, but it is so close in the sounding of Arthur.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's
probably
not
where some
Uther
of that.
because this Uther Pendragon. Is
Right.
that what?
That's his
That's not
dad.
who. Okay.
No, no,
Okay.
no. This is
Okay.
like how Arthur came to be. But this,
Right.
you know,
Okay.
that was a trick also, because Merlin cloaked Uther so he looked like Arena's husband.
Oh.
And he tricked her into having sex thinking it was her husband.
Oh. Okay.
But she knew something was wrong because her husband had never been that passionate.
She got spoiled.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you think back to then, the whole big plot came out of all of that as to how he gained her trust. And then she got sick and died, and so Uther blamed magic.
Right. And, you know, it's funny. In one of my classes on diversity, they read a story about 16th century witchcraft in Scotland and how awful it was, and, you know, this and that. And a lot of people said, I didn't know it existed there. I thought it was just in Salem, Mass. And I said, oh, no, you know, it was everywhere. And they're like, why would they do this to women? And I thought, so you know what I did? I turned it on its ugly head and I said, and why would men decide women's bodies and how they should use them? I said, we're still underneath this magic thing, you know?
Exactly.
We're condemned. We're condemned. Yeah.
Exactly. It's never been dispelled. It isn't
No. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Come on, Ruthie. You know? So this, one of my past lives, where I was wounded, it was in the 1700s, and it was living in Virginia, and my last name was Cormac.
Okay.
And I did not know this till I started doing extra research and accidentally fell upon this article, which is the House of Cormac. In the time of the fall of the Tuatha. Okay, so this is, and then we get to the point where it is King Cormac MacAirt. And that was in the 3rd century AD. So that's in the 400s. So that is one of those kings in the 2100 years of British kings, or whatever the name of that book is. And so all of that story brings together how a changing of a spelling and a changing of an accent is exactly how you change the country that was once this great big huge land. Which is how Brigid had the fae and the animals take her cloak and pull it out. So when the church adopted that story, they made it Kildare for the abbey that they were trying to set up with these nuns to teach the people and support.
Okay, so this is when she became more Catholic. It became Catholic religion.
Yes, and that's in that range. And then St. Patrick, you know, here's the truth. Ireland never had snakes. It doesn't to this day. Snakes did not make it over the ice bridge, right? They couldn't get there. They have a lizard that has a fat body and a very long tail and marbled like a snake would be. So it's a resemblance of snakes in a lot of ways, especially in the head. It's a little lizard like a newt or a snake. And so it has this little head, right? And so on Imbolc, which brings us to Groundhog's Day, because it would either be February 1st or the 2nd. If the snake came out, it would be in early spring.
Wow.
So now we do it with groundhog.
They change things up all the time.
Right?
And
it wasn't a snake. It was a lizard, but they called it a snake.
It was a lizard.
Right. And now you take St. Patrick and they put him in the middle of all this mix with St. Bridget, and that he cast the snakes out of Ireland. No, they weren't there to begin with. He wasn't even from Ireland. He was Italian, I believe, and or German. And then, you know, the fact that there never were any snakes, even the people didn't call them snakes. They changed the fact that it was a lizard to snake.
Oh my goodness.
And really what they really think is that that was the battle of the druids where all the druids were killed.
Yep. Yep.
And that's
Wow.
what they're referring to as snakes.
Oh.
The
Yeah.
honoring of the
Right.
old gods.
Right. 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 And so that's why it's so important to understand. A lot of people think that the myths, the word for myth also is that it's not true. It's a myth. It's a story. Somebody made it up, but it isn't that.
It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't.
Yeah.
It is. It's the history that follows us.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
from the time when nobody would write things down because they didn't want you to change the story. And really, what happened when we started having scribes write the Bible? Who
Yeah.
knows if the word is right
Oh,
or they
absolutely.
spelled it right?
Well, they took out a bunch of stuff too.
Yes,
They did.
exactly.
They did. So before we get into Imbolc, which I'd like to talk a little bit about, but
Okay.
this is the poem that I had found, and I loved it. It says,
Oh, please.
"I am she that is the natural mother of all things, mistress and governess of all the elements, the initial progeny of worlds, chief of the powers divine, queen of all that are in the other world, the principal of them that dwell above, manifested alone and under one form of all the gods and goddesses." So it seems to me that every, like we had the sun, Ra, the sun god over in Egypt, and we have this one, and this one's more important. This was the most important goddess, apparently, in Ireland. Even
Yes.
higher, like you say, even higher than St.
Yes.
Patrick. But Celtic says Patrick was Welsh, so at least he was from the island, but he wouldn't have been from
Ireland.
Ireland,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So, I've just lost my train of thought again.
That's okay.
Squirrel. Welcome to Pluto in Aquarius. Anybody
That's right.
in this way?
Well, you're doing fine for Pluto in Aquarius. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, we'll blame it on that. Unpredictability.
Uh-huh. Well, we were going to talk about in bulk. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Begin.
Oh, well, from what I
you want me
gathered,
to?
but from what I gathered,
Okay.
it is the middle. It is the time between winters.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I found out that I felt it makes sense. It's so fascinating, but it makes total sense, is that they had to make certain in their agrarian lifestyle that the life and death struggle that was represented, there were issues that were really pressing that they had to make sure were covered, such as, is there enough food for both us and the animals? Will illness decimate the tribe in the care of the young and old nursing mothers? And of course, there's a lot of people that are living outside in this cold weather. And so they've got to find a way to take care of all of this. It says it divides the winter in half. The crone months of winter are departing, and the promise of the spring maiden is on the rise. And I just really love that, because it, again, bringing in the triple goddess.
Right.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the corn doll, or
Right.
any way you formulate bride. Like I made one of my own with
Uh-huh.
pipe cleaners and dressed her all up in all kinds of things. I forgot to bring that one down as well.
That's
But exactly. I'll go get it. No, I'm just kidding. But the corn doll, when corn finally made it back over there, they were already making corn dolls here to entertain the children with anyway.
Sure, they did.
Right?
Absolutely. That's what
And
kids would have.
right. You don't eat the husks.
Right.
You don't eat the husk of a tamale. You cook it in it. Right.
Right. Right.
And the thing, the cob, you strip the corn and you grind it. It's flour. It's a grain. It's not really a vegetable, but we eat it like a vegetable, and some of us suffer from that.
and it's so many similarities to the Native American traditions with the same corn, maize, and what they did as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's it. They came here and got it, just as when they came, they brought tomatoes. We
Okay.
didn't have tomatillas and Chinese
No.
lanterns over here. You know the little plant Chinese lantern?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
is in the same family as tomatilla and tomatoes.
And of course, tomatoes
I
are a
did.
fruit, not really a vegetable. Yeah,
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I love tomatillas, though I don't think I'd eat a Chinese lantern because they,
Okay.
the book says, no, you don't want to eat the little ones.
That's
That's
right.
the wrong kind.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Wow. So it's interesting because I got the Season of the Witch cards from
Oh,
Imbolc, you know.
they're over there too.
I know. But I pulled this one here, which is The Dark Days of Winter.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful? And it says
Yes.
here, I must seek to befriend the hidden parts of myself, the darkness that embraces the whole of who I am. And I struggle every winter. I really do, because I have that vitamin D deficiency thing. But when it's a dark and dreary day outside, it's almost as though I feel I've been buried underground.
Oh,
So this card to me was really, really important to see and to know that it's not going to be forever.
yeah.
That it
Yes.
will be changing eventually.
Well,
Yeah,
and as you can see, the days are getting longer right now. You know,
true.
it's been
Yes.
shining in the window for a long time.
Yep. Yep.
And the fact that January had maybe 2 days of sunshine
Oh,
was
yes.
amazing. You know, now see, here's the difference in me. When it's gray, I'm okay with that. I get a
Oh,
lot
really?
done in
Okay.
the house. I don't
Okay.
know. And because I have systemic lupus, I think that it is a brain triggered thing. It's a
Uh-huh.
safer day for me. I can get away with, if I don't go outside for too long, I don't have to slather up in sunblock and all that other
Sure.
business. And
Yeah.
so I think that's probably just a physical part of it that my systemic body is aware of.
Sure. And everybody's different.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, seasonal affect disorder, winter depression. Yeah, February is noted for it, but it's March that drives me crazy. March is like endless. It just marches on and on and on. There's something about it. Yeah, yesterday we had sun here and it was glorious. You just felt, even if you didn't go outside, you felt like your step was lighter,
Yeah,
something about it. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh.
So Imbolc means the fire of the belly,
Okay.
which gives us the full moon of the matron,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
our Kundalini core and the flame on the anvil and hammer and the
Uh-huh.
flame needed in order to forge. And it there's another word that isn't used as much now, but is also in reference to this time of the year because it's also the time when birds begin mating and some even begin to lay eggs,
Uh-huh. Yep.
and the sheep begin lambing and drop their pregnancy load and have their babies and begin drinking of the milk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when Bride was born and she drank the milk of only one cow, and the cow must have red ears. And
Is
that
that
cow,
because her hair was red? Is that why?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. You don't know. Okay.
That
That's
one
fine.
they don't say, but
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, you can in Ireland there are red-eared cows. The rest of the body is white, but the ears are red, and I'm
Oh,
sure that
really?
they're here.
Really?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, in all practicality, perhaps they were the first ones of the season to be ready to give birth. Also,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so
I love this
but
question. Leah asks, are fruits and vegetables, do they have voices? I think I've heard people say that they have bitten into something and actually heard screaming. But I think it has a lot to do with saying thank you for the fruits and
Mhm,
vegetables. And
mhm.
we should really, that's why they started the whole thing with prayer at dinner. It's to thank them for their
Exactly.
sacrifice. Yeah. Yeah.
And fruits and vegetables, when they are ripe, they fall off the vine themselves or rot in the ground.
Yep. You're right.
So you're not. I'm a vegan, and I look at it as I don't take them until they are ready to die.
There you
Much
go.
the way the female praying mantis does not eat a male mantis until he is ready to die. He lives his whole life for that one copulation.
Wow.
And he dies. He cannot pull out of her. If she doesn't eat him, she's going to
Oh,
die too. And then she
I had
can't
no
lay the
idea
egg.
about that. Wow.
And her
Okay.
egg sac has got thousands of eggs in it. But out of that, you're lucky if 100 praying mantises make it once they hatch.
Wow.
And you have to turn them
Yeah.
loose right away because they start foraging like that hungry caterpillar. So the word
Wow.
for the lambing time of the year or the milking time of year is omel, Omiele, but it is the same time of year. That word used to be used a lot when I was a kid, but I don't hear it used so much anymore. However, I'm not hanging around the same circles I hung around in as a kid.
That's wonderful. Wow. So I'm trying to think how we want to sort of tie up everything here. So the next time we come on to talk about Ostara, right? Ostara.
Right.
When is that, in March?
It is, the end of March, beginning of April.
Okay.
And because the church calendar has interfered with so much, Ostara is also Easter, right? And I look at it as March 21st, as we have the first day of spring, right?
Yeah.
Which, we have to remember, one thing we always have to remember is that they didn't keep a calendar. The Georgian calendar was not around during pagan days.
That's right.
That's
right.
That's why there's Stonehenge. That's why there's Tara and Newgrange and all of the other monuments that mark the passing of the sun, to keep track of when to plant, when to clear, when to rest, when to, harvest, would help them mark a calendar of some sort or another. And of course, it always had celebration, as we do. So the church, in its adoption of all of that, made it Easter.
Sure. Now, did Brigid die a regular death? Or isn't it true that if you were sainted in the Catholic Church, that there's something special that happened to you that was miraculous? Or
yes, you have to perform 3 miracles.
Okay.
Proven 3 miracles to be fully canonized. 2 gets you to be blessed, like Saint Teresa of the Little Flower. She performed 2 miracles. She was blessed, but they made her a complete saint later. I see. And here in Michigan, we have Father Casey. Father Casey is a Cistercian monk who I met when I was 6 years old, and it was like, they really wear that. The only time I saw anybody in a brown robe and sandals was when you looked at a statue of Saint Anthony Padua in the Catholic Church, right? And he blessed my mother's house and my grandmother's house, rather, and nothing ever happened to them. And they lived in a pretty rough neighborhood. As time went by, it got worse and worse. That house was still standing till last summer, and it was destroyed by a controlled burn by the fire department and used as practice property, because it had been in everything and anything after my grandmother moved out of there. And in fact, one of my mother's caregivers actually lived in that house after my grandmother moved out. And then, through conversation, learning that this woman who was a nurse to come and take care of my mother lived in the same house my mother grew up in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went back and collected as many bricks from the property as I can.
That's
to
fun.
build for my Brigid Imbolc fire out there.
Yeah. Diana is gifted and has so many stories, and that's why it's always wonderful to
Thank
have
you.
her come on and share them. Yeah.
Thank you.
We can learn so much about all of these things from a great storyteller. So thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I always have to tell it in a story because I'm a little kid at heart.
That's okay. That's right. She used to teach is it kindergarten kids? It was kindergarten.
Yeah, pre-K. I did the
Pre-K.
pre-K. Yeah,
Oh.
so I would get the 4 or 5-year-old who wasn't ready to go on to kindergarten and regular school.
Sure. Yeah.
And because I spent 30 years herding cats, I learned how to go down the rabbit hole because the cat always wants to go down the rabbit hole.
Sure.
You know, so you got to know all the answers you can possibly imagine. Like here, hold this measuring tape. Come on, let's measure, see how long a dinosaur would be. That's supposed to be 65 feet long. Oh my gosh, our tape measure doesn't go that far. Somebody's got to stand here. Somebody stands at the beginning, and now another person has to help me open up the tape measure one more time. It was fun. I love teaching them. They were great.
Yeah. That's great. So yeah, Annie, I don't know if she'll be able to do it as a weekly show, but we're certainly going to come back again at Ostara, and then we'll come back for all of it. Yeah,
I would love to. There's so much that we don't know for the simple reason that they really didn't keep a written record.
Right.
But it's in the channeling that I know what I write down is correct. I know when I go into the rabbit hole and research everything I can and find bits and pieces that aren't in the mainstream of publication and are older, those are the ones that I latch onto because you just get the feeling that's the way it was. That's the truth. You know, like the Anu and the Anunnaki.
Yeah. But
you know, it's like,
weren't the Anunnaki the real big, tall? Or am I thinking of the
well, in Mesopotamia?
Yeah.
In Mesopotamia, they were giants. And the key, the Dagda, are the giants in Ireland.
In Ireland.
In the big Celtic realm that included Spain, Portugal, Italy, Mesopotamia, Pomerania, you know, all of those other places.
Yep, that's right. So again, it's all the same wherever you go, just named differently, and sometimes, as you said in the beginning, diametrically different. Instead of the sun over here, it means the moon. Instead of the moon over here, it means something else.
Exactly. And you know, snake is a lizard, but they call them snake, or did somebody change that to fit the bill that they wanted, you know, when it came, because that was all part of that colonization thing. So, and another thing, no other reptiles made it to Ireland either. No turtles, none of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
You know, now I'm not saying they're not there now, but at that time, they did not get across the ice flow.
Right. Even before that, though, there was a land bridge, but then the ice thing came in and really killed all of those.
That would be the second ice age, right?
Second ice age, yeah. Wow.
I mean, I could.
Yeah, I know.
I'm upset with myself because I put my notes out of order. My own fault.
Oh, no, you're doing fine.
So she's the goddess of cattle, all small animals. And, of course, great friends with Elena the Trods.
Right, which we talked about
last time.
Last month. Yep.
And then remember my dream about all of us and the 5 pips?
Yep.
And going to Michael's Tower and the hill and the Newgrange and the Holy Wells.
Yep.
So I found a book, and I really want to get this book. It's called The 10 Seeds of Anu.
Oh, okay.
Now, you know, there's lots of other legends, and before I go too deep into them, I need to do some refreshing.
Yeah.
Why 9 hazelnuts is another thing that you should put out at this time.
Okay.
It has something to do with the salmon eating them for wisdom, as the hazelnuts dropped off of the tree into the water. But I can't remember how that all came to be. So I have to refresh all of it before we really discuss it. But that could be part of the spring thaw too, when the salmon are running again.
And they're going opposite direction, right? They're going.
When they mate, they go up the stream.
Yeah.
And then they do the same thing the praying mantis does. Once that's over, they're done. Especially when you see those great big, huge kokanese, salmon, coho. The males get this great big hook, chinook, this big old hook on their snout.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like that one at all.
No, I would not. Wow. But the female eat it?
No, but they're done.
Okay.
They're done. It's like it's like catching them isn't even the greatest eat. You have to catch them before they start to turn color too. Okay. Because once they start to get real black, then their meat is soggy and flat tasting.
This is it, I believe, Annie. 10 seeds of ANU, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, this is a flavor of what's going on. And again, reiterate that we were trying to do this last week during Brigid's birthday and Imbolc. And, Spirit said wait because I didn't feel good. And it's fine because there's always time to talk about it. And we still are in that middle space between now and the groundhog just came out last week.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same thing happened with Merlin.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
And it was good. And I
good.
Hope it's good. And if Jazz is out there, email me because we need to talk some more or show up for the next Akashic reading show. On next week, Tuesday.
What just came in for me today was the Modern Merlin Oracle.
Oh.
Yeah, I haven't even opened it yet. It just looked like it would be really good, but that's a different.
We just got a drop down for our next show.
Wow. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Diana, of course. Diana will be back with me today at 2:30 with Mark. We'll be doing the meeting with the medium show. So we're going to take a short break here and have lunch or dinner or whatever it is that we're going to do.
A little something.
A little snack. Yeah. But much love. And thank you all for spending time with us. And of course, thank you, Diana, for your infinite wisdom and so much fun to listen.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. It works both ways.
I understand. Love you, dear. All right.
I love you
too, everybody. Thanks, Celtic Seer, for your input as well. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.